Imagine a world a few years down in history, not a few years basically, a few decades down in history, where this country called India is taken to rule by the British Empire. A country where overpopulation is seen a lot, and a country where we can see lots of class differences and so much deviation among these classes. There's a special individual who was born into a very high class society, who wasn't obliged to do anything that he did within his lifetime in the first place, but still did so because he loves his country and his nation. He ended up changing the lives of hundreds, if not millions of individuals during his lifetime. And even beyond his lifetime, I'm pretty sure he left a very lasting impact. So I'm pretty sure everyone here knows that who we're talking about. If they went through the grade 9 Sinhala textbook.
Yeah, I definitely did that, and that is why I know that his name is. Please.
His name is Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, let's do the quick intro thing that we do all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of Words of the Bard 24, where we discuss interesting topics about very interesting individuals. Today's episode, of course, is about this interesting individual known as Rabindranath Tagore. He is a person that has convinced change into the hearts of multiple individuals and a very inspirational character to all of us. Why? Yeah, what do you think?
Well, when we look at inspirational characters, they always make their way up from nothing, right? If you take, for example, Ronaldo, right? He was born low, but he came up. But Tagore, he was born up and rose higher. For example, he was born into a rich family. He was homeschooled by his mother, and then he learned a lot of things by himself with the help of his mother, right? And even with this pretty higher upper class upbringing, he still was very down to earth, right? And he was someone who was willing to go down just for those around him. Like for example, if I'm correct, after the Bari and Jala Bagh massacre, he gave up his knighthood, and which is something not many people have, right? Which is very rare and it's such an honor to have. But he gave that up for his country. And this also says a lot about his feelings towards his country in general, right? I mean, there are so many people who would talk about their country and how much they love it, but there's very few who would actually do something like that. And there's even more instances like that, like in the book he wrote, where The Mind is Free. He talks about people's minds being free of fear and being free of this oppression that the British caused. So, yeah. Other than that, he also did a lot to, to join the West and the East. I think Ahmed should be able to tell us a bit about that.
So, he was known for actually a lot of things. Like, he composed the national anthem for India and Bangladesh. Yeah. Which I don't think was an easy job, but
Definitely
well, it couldn't have been. But I'm pretty sure that was one of his proudest things, like to compose a national anthem. Not many people can say that, can they? Not just that, he was like an inspiration to many people who to be like him, to help other people.
And not only building up a national anthem, right? In order to add to his list, he was also the first person that wasn't a European individual or a Western individual to actually win a Nobel Prize. We didn't get back then in his time. We didn't see that often, or in that case at all. He was the first person to win that that much of an award.
Yeah, and let's be clear here, this isn't just an accomplishment for India, right? This was an accomplishment for everyone who wasn't from Europe to get this award that was basically just known as a Europeans award at the time, because it was basically just Europeans who were winning it.
Yeah.
So for this one guy from India to come and win it, that was a massive step forward, not only for India, but for Asia as a whole.
There may have been a small step for the Nobel Prize winners, but it was a huge leap for that entire region.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, everyone in South Asia and Asia as a whole should be very proud of this individual. Because not only did he win a Nobel Prize, but he inspired change between millions. Because he wanted to invoke that sense of freedom in between his people. Because back then was a very oppressive time. The British were overruling all of the Indians per se. And he didn't have to do so because he was a noble. But he still helped so many poor people. I'm not like pointing fingers or saying that aristocrats aren't supposed to do anything for society, but he actually took that step forward. He wanted to help people, to make a difference, and that's something that's very interesting and very inspiring about Rabindranath Tagore.
Yeah, that's really true, Chanil, but at the same time, the way he inspired that change, it wasn't like he just got into a boxing ring with the British hood and like beat him up, right? It's like he wrote. The way he made about change was very non-violent and peaceful. And like that fell in line with Gandhi's way of making change in India as well. And that is how they basically got their freedom. It wasn't through these non-violent methods, it was through literature, it was through peaceful protest. And I feel Tagore's influence, especially in the peaceful side of protest, really helped a lot in that whole thing.
And like, especially speaking, Tagore wanted to bring in Western culture and Eastern culture together. I'm pretty sure he built like multiple schools in order to promote these. I've heard that after he won the Nobel Prize.
He was actually a huge. He was a cultural inspiration for many actually.
Yeah, he even built this university called the Visva Bharati, if I'm correct. It was like a meeting place between Westerners and Easterners both, which is revolutionary at the time. I mean, this is like this is in the 1900s. This thing was pretty unheard of, especially at the time where the Europeans were trying to conquer people of Asia.
Especially because most of them we can see were in disgust of these people in Eastern times back then, in that certain time period. Not now, but back then you don't see like Easterners and Westerners being friends much often.
Yeah, I mean you can see that with people like Winston Churchill making comments like they breed like rabbits about Indians. And still, even at the same time, Tagore managed to build up a place where both of these parties, they collaborated and worked together in unison, basically.
That's the main reason why I feel like they invoked a sense of like freedom. That's the main reason why I feel like the empire would want to give freedom to India in the first place, because if my remembrance in history is the same as it was a few years back, I'm pretty sure Sri Lanka wanted its freedom through like peace as well, not just fighting. We showed them that we're educated and are able to handle ourselves. I'm pretty sure that's the main reason how India got its freedom too, because people like Rabindranath Tagore, especially Rabindranath Tagore, because he worked so much towards bringing peace, and Mahatma Gandhi worked for it. And I feel like without Rabindranath Tagore, this entire peacekeeping concept would not have been a part in India, because his literature was so spread out to like the entire country, and everyone down there didn't want to fight for freedom. They wanted to voice out freedom. They want to bring out freedom thoughts within their country, and I feel like that's something really special about Tagore.
And to add to that, it's not like Tagore did this whole thing with just sacrificing nothing, right? He gave up his knighthood, which is something really valuable that we touched on before. This is something that everyone gets, but he gave up on that for his people, for his country. And other than that, because of this really must have heard his opportunities abroad, right? To fight for these people who are generally viewed as below. So I think this really affected his reputation, but he sacrificed it for his country. Yeah.
Like, sacrifices have to be made in order for good things to be made as well. And I feel like that's a worthy sacrifice to make, because without Rabindranath Tagore, I don't think India would have been able to take those steps. And especially after the entirety of India agreed to make a golden book after him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something really special, because they wanted to pay back to the hero that helped them. That's something really inspiring to all of us, because it teaches us that not like being wealthy and being powerful isn't everything. Sometimes you need to sacrifice your wealth, sacrifice all of those for the betterment of your country and your nation.
Yeah.
And it's not always about like you having a knighthood. It's not always about you being famous. It's about the vast majority of society and how you can better society as a whole. It's very inspiring about Rabindranath Tagore, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say the main thing from this is that when you sacrifice something that you truly believe is worth fighting for, you get a reward. He sacrificed his life, he sacrificed his reputation abroad, but what did he get? He got a free country. He got people who were free. He made his people's mind free. And I feel like that's a perfect wrap up for this week's episode.
And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that calls wraps for the second episode of Words of the Bard. Hope you have a nice day for moving forward with today. And with that, this is Charu Tamisha signing off.
Arun Shah signing off.
DK Boss signing off.